Hello, here is BB Walker. Welcome again to my channel. Today, as you can see, we are again with Yamaha PSR S670 and we will be discussing interesting things because I have received an email with some questions and I have decided that the best way to answer is to create a video. We will be working with DSP, variation, and a little bit with live knobs. So if you are interested in, just stay tuned. And we will start in a second. Alright, so on my channel you can already find a video about DSP, variation, arpeggios, etc. But those videos are very long and maybe you don't have time to go through all of the details. But today I will try to do this as fast as possible and squeeze and summarize to only the basics. So each instrument you have also blocks called and responsible for processing. DSP blocks, digital signal processing, so they are responsible for processing sound in digital form and give you some nice effect like echo, reverb, delays, distortions, whatever. A lot of effects. So some of those effects could be applied to all the sound that's coming from instruments. So style, accompaniment, left part, right part, right two voice, and depending on the number of layers, possible computation power of the instrument, there could be several of those blocks. In this model, but also it could be applied to any other model, you have 5 blocks, and 3 of those blocks are independently configurable, and they could be applied to right 1, right 2, or left, or to the specific song channel. If you press the direct button and the variation button on the right side, so I will show you it here, the screen that will shows up will give you the configuration of the effects. Of course, you need to go to the tabs called effect, and here you can see the blocks that I have mentioned: the block reverb, the block chorus, the block reverb, chorus, DSP 1, 2, 3, and 4. And as you can see, this first 3 blocks doesn't have anything on this section part. Why? Because they are universal. They process sound for all the sound sources that comes from the instrument. But the blocks 2, 3, and 4 could be applied to sections, left, right 2, or channels, up to 16 channels. So if you are selecting a voice, because this was the actual question, something magically happens with the configuration of those 2 buttons. Now I have selected the voice called even bars for right 1. It's very important which voice you are selecting. So I have layered only right 1 and I'm selecting right 1. And now I will change it to something else. For example, grand piano. And here something changes. Depending on the voice that I am selecting, those configurations by the default changes. And the question, so now I have grand piano. I press DSP, and there is a little bit different. It may be hard to hear, but the question asked by the viewer is what actually is behind this DSP. When I press the DSP, something's happened and I don't want to know what. So to show you this, you are again selecting voice, and if you are here on this page where you are selecting voice, you are clicking voice set button, voice set, and then you go into effects. If you are on other tab, go to effects part. So we are in effects of the voice set concert grand, and as you can see here, all the magic happens. I mean, this is the default configuration of DSP processing that will be applied to mixing console after you load this voice into memory. So now you can see that reverb will be set to 10, the chorus will be 0, the DSP depth will be 30, and by the default DSP is now on because I have it enabled, but if I switch to on, the LED will, goes away. But this is the default value and also current value. So if I are changing it here, everything on the right part also changes. So here you get this reverb and chorus, and by the default you can check and change if the DSP is disabled or enabled. But what is behind the DSP, what effect could be applied, will be applied by the default to this voice? So the answer is here. It will be the reverb effect category with type whole 5. And if you want to display what values will be with this reverb, you can press detail. And you will see now the reverb time will be 4.1 seconds. Yes, you can also already hear this value, this reverb. Now I will disable, and the sound is muted much faster. So there is no this reverb effect. Okay, so this is basically the place where you can find the information what is behind the DSP button. What about the variation button? Well, you can also change the value of this variation button, the default value. It should be enabled or disabled. And actually, what does it mean? Well, variation button is used to change the value of one selected parameter of the effects. And for the reverb, it will be the reverb time. Another type of effects will have another parameter selected for variation. And if you want to display the variation value, you are clicking detail. By the default, on this voice, the reverb time is 4.1, which is pretty useless because it's the same value like without variation. So I will go a little bit up with this, up to 30, 25 seconds, okay? And now let's listen the difference, okay? So DSP is enabled, 4.5. 1 second, and now variation is enabled. I will switch again. So basically, variation enabled, DSP of course need to be enabled. Long, reverb, very long. Still I can hear it. Okay, 25 seconds of reverb, very long. So disabled variation, the value from here, which is for 2. Something's changed. Okay, 2.6. Enabled variation, longer. Of course, if you have disabled DSP and enabled variation, nothing will happen. Why? This button has a higher priority. It disabled the block effects completely. This block reserved for your individual voice, and the variation is a switch that can how to say it. It's magic fast altering the sound. So you get one effect with some parameters, and the variation could give you this change momentarily for, I don't know, whole section, whatever. Okay, so now you know that DSP information, the information about the effects applied to the voice is stored within the voice. As you can see, now I have messed up with these parameters, and if I leave this screen, the instrument will give me a warning and information that if you want to store those alters, so if you have changed the behavior of the DSP button, it should be the enable or disabled by the default, or maybe the variation should be disabled or enabled by the default, or the parameters should be changed. You need to make a copy of this voice and save it in USB memory or in user space of the instrument. So there's a lot of videos when I'm showing you how to do this. I'm only mentioning it that if you want to preserve your changes, you need to make a copy of this voice with another name, of course. So I will, of course, discard those information. And now if I select something else, and then I will go back and select concert grant, everything goes to the default values because those values are stored in the voice file. So they are loaded in the voice. All right. So maybe you are also wondering how this all affects these 3 blocks, this universal first blocks affects the live knobs. Well, not live knobs in this instrument and other instruments, I believe, from the Yamaha, is completely independent. What does it mean that they are independent? Well, they are not processed in those block DSP 1 to 4. Here, if you press Assign button, you will see the configuration of the live knobs. I will zoom the screen to show you. So we are pressing Assign, and you will see that knob number 1 will affect style with track and mute, and the knob number 2 will also affect style with effect called reverb. Not very interesting, so let's change it by pressing Assign button, and let's select something which affect voice. It could be cut resonance, and this R1, R2 means that this effect will affect right 1 and right 2 voices. And now if I press our piano and move the knob, so if I move the live knob, now it is altered. It is changed by this filter cut effect. There is no way to enter deeply in and check what is the value, maximum, minimum, like in configuring the modulation wheel. You can check the video about modulation wheel. It is configurable, but this live knobs is not configurable. So actually they give some maximum and minimum values, and depending on the selected assigned type of live knob effect, they could affect voice, they could affect style, or something universal like tempo or other stuff. There is another video about live knobs, but I am mentioning it now, that live knobs are completely separated from the DSP blocks. Alright, so now I'm looking again into this email. Yes, I think I have answered all the stuff that it was, asked in the email. So as always, if you have any questions on this topic or any other topics related to Yamaha keyboard, to loopers, loop stations, whatever, you can see on my channel. Don't hesitate to contact me. And remember, most information about Yamaha keyboards refers also to other models, not only this displayed and presented right in here. So thanks for watching. Thanks for 10,000 subscribers. It was BB Walker, Saturday video. See you later.